How did the son of a poor shoemaker in Georgia become the absolute ruler of one of the world's greatest empires? The Secret of Stalin. From SOSO to Stalin. Josef Vissarionovich Djugashvili, later known as Stalin, was born on December 18, 1878 in the town of Gori, Georgia. His father, Vissarion, was a shoemaker, and his mother, Keki, was a housewife. The family's one-room mud-brick house was evidence of Stalin's humble beginnings. As a child, Stalin contracted smallpox, which left permanent scars on his face. He had a congenital disability in his left arm, which set him apart from other children. His mother, Kiki, strongly wanted her son to receive an education. This determined woman sent Stalin first to a local church school, then to the Tiflis Orthodox Seminary in 1894. This seminary would play a critical role in Stalin's intellectual development. Here, he was forbidden to speak Georgian and was only allowed to speak Russian. This situation awakened in the young Stalin his first feelings of rebellion against Russian authority. Stalin was a brilliant student at the seminary, but he had disciplinary problems. He secretly read Marxist literature and discussed revolutionary ideas with his friends. Victor Hugo's novel Les Miserables had a profound effect on him. The emphasis on social justice in this work began to shape Stalin's worldview. In 1898, he joined the Marxist study group at the seminary and became known by the nickname SOSO. In 1899, Stalin left the seminary. While the official reason was his inability to pay tuition fees, the real reason was his interest in revolutionary activities. He began working at the Tiflis Observatory, but he devoted most of his energy to socialist propaganda work. In 1901, he joined the Social Democratic Labour Party and focused on underground activities. During this period, he began using the codename Stalin, a name meaning "steel man," reflecting his character. The Tsarist regime arrested Stalin several times and exiled him to Siberia. He was exiled in 1902, 1908, 1910 and 1913, but managed to escape each time. These periods of exile allowed Stalin to think and write about political theories. His articles on the nationalities issue particularly caught Lenin's attention. Lenin began to see Stalin as a valuable revolutionary with practical organizational skills. When the February Revolution of 1917 overthrew the Tsarist regime, Stalin returned to Petersburg. He took over as editor of the party newspaper Pravda and played an active role in the Bolsheviks' struggle against the provisional government. He supported Lenin's April theses and participated in the preparations for the October Revolution. At this time, Stalin was still a second-tier leader, but Lenin trusted him and assigned him important tasks. Thus, Stalin had taken his place at the forefront of the revolutionary struggle and taken his first steps toward future power. The Revolution and Civil War period, 1917 to 1924. Stalin played an important role in the October Revolution of 1917. He served on the Revolutionary Military Committee and participated in the storming of the Winter Palace. He was one of Lenin's trusted associates and played an influential role in the success of the revolution. He was appointed Commissar for Nationalities in the newly established Soviet government. This position gave Stalin the opportunity to engage with the diverse peoples of the multi-ethnic Russian Empire. His theoretical knowledge of nationalities was highly regarded by Lenin. During the Civil War, Stalin took on critical roles on the military front. He served as a commissar in the defense of Tsaritsyn, later renamed Stalingrad. There he organized a successful resistance against the White Army. This victory demonstrated Stalin's military abilities and increased his prestige within the party. However, it was also during this period that he experienced his first serious disagreements with Trotsky. Trotsky was the founder and commander of the Red Army, while Stalin served as a political commissar on the front lines. The tension between Stalin and Trotsky continued to grow. In Tsaritsyn, Stalin dismissed the military experts appointed by Trotsky and brought in his own men. Although this upset Lenin, Stalin's military successes prevented a major conflict from erupting. During this period, Stalin began to form a loyal cadre within the party. Names such as Vyacheslav Molotov and Kliment Voroshilov were among his close associates. In 1922, Stalin was elected General Secretary of the party. This position was not considered very important at the time, as the real power was in Lenin's hands. However, Stalin made the most of this position. He controlled party appointments and placed his supporters in key positions. He effectively used the bureaucracy to expand his power base. This strategy would give him a great advantage in the subsequent power struggle. Lenin's first stroke in 1922 changed the situation. The issue of party leadership came to the fore, and Stalin seized the opportunity. He established close contact with Lenin during his illness and tried to make himself indispensable. However, Lenin's mention of his concerns about Stalin in his testament was a dangerous situation for Stalin. Lenin had written that Stalin had accumulated too much power and that caution was needed. With the end of the Civil War, the Soviet Union was established, and Stalin's role grew even more. During the NEP, New Economic Policy period, Stalin adopted a pragmatic approach and played an effective role in the country's economic recovery. As his position within the party strengthened, he was preparing for the future power struggle. As Lenin's death approached, Stalin sought to position himself as his most suitable successor. The steps he took during this period would lay the foundations for his future absolute power.
The power struggle against Trotsky, 1924 to 1929. Lenin's death on January 21, 1924, marked the beginning of a new era in Soviet history. Stalin played a key role in the funeral ceremony and presented himself as Lenin's most loyal follower. Trotsky was unable to attend the funeral due to illness, which worked in Stalin's favor. Stalin turned Lenin's funeral into a major propaganda spectacle, thereby gaining legitimacy in the eyes of the people. The idea of embalming and displaying Lenin's body also originated with Stalin. The reading of Lenin's will at the party congress posed a great danger to Stalin. In this document, Lenin recommended that Stalin be removed from his position as General Secretary. However, Stalin demonstrated his political maneuvering skills here. He formed an alliance with Kamenev and Zinoviev to reduce the impact of the will. He even offered to resign by feigning remorse, but the majority at the party congress supported him. Having survived this critical moment, Stalin knew he would have to act more cautiously from then on. Stalin's greatest rival was Lev Trotsky. Trotsky was a hero of the Civil War, the founder of the Red Army, and a brilliant orator and theorist. He was a leading figure in the international communist movement with his theory of permanent revolution. However, Stalin pursued a pragmatic strategy. He developed the theory of socialism in one country and appealed to Soviet patriotism. This approach received more support from the exhausted and weary people. In 1924-1925, Stalin launched a systematic campaign against Trotsky. Trotsky's past opposition to Lenin was brought up within the party. While Stalin presented himself as the protector of Lenin's line, he portrayed Trotsky as a dissenting voice who had joined the party later. This propaganda campaign was effective, and Trotsky began to be isolated within the party. Despite Trotsky's influential speeches and writings, Stalin's control over the bureaucracy was stronger. In 1926, the left opposition was formed, bringing together Trotsky, Kamenev, and Zinoviev. This trio united against Stalin's growing power, but it was too late. Stalin now completely controlled the party machine. He used various methods to silence the opposition. He blocked meetings, expelled dissenting voices from the party, and controlled the press. In October 1927, on the 10th anniversary of the October Revolution, the opposition made a last-ditch attempt and organized demonstrations, but they failed. In 1928, Stalin exiled Trotsky to Alma-Ata and succeeded in expelling him from the country in 1929. Trotsky's exile symbolized Stalin's definitive victory. Stalin was now the sole authority in the Soviet Union. Kamenev and Zinoviev had also been neutralized. Stalin owed this success to his loyal cadre system within the party, effective propaganda efforts, and control over the bureaucracy. Trotsky's intellectual superiority proved inadequate against Stalin's political pragmatism. This victory would pave the way for Stalin's absolute power. Establishment of absolute power. 1929 to 1953. From 1929 onwards, Stalin rose to become the undisputed leader of the Soviet Union. He had now assumed the title of Vozhd, leader, and begun to establish a personality cult. By launching the first 5-year plan, he initiated a rapid industrialization program for the country. This plan brought about not only economic but also political transformation. Stalin's power had become unquestionable, and opposing him had become nearly impossible. The collectivization policy was the most striking demonstration of Stalin's power. He forcibly relocated millions of peasants to collective farms. The kulaks, wealthy peasants, were declared class enemies and either exiled or eliminated. This process led to a horrific humanitarian crisis. The Holodomor, Great Famine, of 1932 to 1933 caused the deaths of millions of people. Stalin even used this tragedy to consolidate his power, turning it into a tool to silence opposition. In the 1932nd, Stalin systematically built a cult of personality around himself. His statues, portraits, and quotes were everywhere. The press was completely controlled, and nothing but praise for Stalin could be published. The education system was transformed to spread Stalin's ideas. Children learned about Stalin's greatness from an early age. This cult of personality made Stalin not just a political leader, but almost a sacred figure. The Great Purge of 1936 to 1938 marked the peak of Stalin's paranoia and power. Former Bolsheviks, military commanders, intellectuals, and millions of ordinary citizens were labeled enemies of the people, arrested, tried, and most were either executed or sent to the gulags. At the Moscow trials, former revolutionary heroes falsely accused themselves of crimes. This purge consolidated Stalin's absolute power and eliminated any potential threats against him. World War II was both a major crisis and a moment of victory for Stalin. Initially, he sought to buy time by signing the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with Hitler. When the Nazi invasion began in 1941, the Soviet Union nearly collapsed. But under Stalin's leadership, the Soviets organized their resistance. The victories at Stalingrad, Kursk, and Berlin elevated Stalin's prestige to its peak. By the end of the war, Stalin, as the leader of the Soviet Union, now a global superpower, had become a colossal figure, not only nationally, but also internationally. In the post-war period, Stalin succeeded in establishing Soviet influence in Eastern Europe. The Iron Curtain was formed, and the Cold War began. Stalin was now not only the leader of the Soviet Union, but also of the entire socialist world. The cult of personality reached its peak, and he almost attained a divine status. When he died on the 5th of March, 1953, he left behind the image of a leader who had attained absolute power. This journey from the son of an ordinary shoemaker to one of the most powerful men in the world was one of the most striking stories of power in 20th century history.